reasons keeping us way too far apart. Every time I get too close, I fall apart. You have changed for the better. You don't wanna stay sleeping in my head. Why you made up your side of the bed? I never said it was forever. When you don't need me no more, so you keep on moving on. You'll be okay, and I'll remain. One stay the same, gonna forget the pains I wanna know. Looking in all the wrong directions. Stay the same, I'm gonna forget the pains I wanna know. You can't find it there, you lost it. 1,000 miles away on a different star, counting all the colors painted on my heart. How do I get better? No more you and I in reality. Tried to wipe you out of every fantasy. We can start again together. When you don't need me, so you keep on moving on. You'll be okay, and I'll remain.
Today's story is a good old-fashioned spooky story. It's about a missing person in Taiwan, and it takes a totally bizarre turn.
Franklin University makes it possible.
Advance in today's most in-demand fields with a degree from Franklin University. As a top choice.
Today's story is a good old-fashioned spooky story. It's about a missing person in Taiwan, and it takes a totally bizarre turn, and I will say, probably most of you will get the biggest thrill out of the apartment scene. You'll know that scene when you get to it, and that's towards the end of the video. So make sure you stick around if you enjoy being spooked. But before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So if that's of interest to you, the next time the like button is at work, sneak into their house and crawl into their bed, and then open up a Nature Valley crunchy granola bar and very sloppily eat it so crumbs go everywhere, and then without cleaning up, just pull the covers up and cover up your mess and leave. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story. On the morning of February 4th, 1991, a taxicab driver named Wang was chatting with the taxi dispatcher at headquarters when suddenly, for no clear reason, the dispatcher stopped talking to Wang and just began staring intently at something behind Wang. And so Wang noticed this, and right away he turned around to see what it was he was looking at. But all Wang could see was just a window that looked out to this huge fenced-in parking lot that was full of taxi cabs and their drivers. This is where they would go to wait for fares. And where the taxi headquarters were located was right near the airport in a very busy city called Kaohsiung City in Taiwan. And so taxi cabs in this area were really in high demand. And so as Wang looked out at the very busy parking lot full of drivers talking to potential customers, to Wang, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. It was just a typical busy day. But when Wang kind of looked at the dispatcher like, I don't really see what you see, the dispatcher just raised his finger and kind of pointed in the direction that he was staring. And so Wang turned around again, and this time when he looked in the direction the dispatcher was pointing, he could see immediately why the dispatcher was reacting the way he was. Because the dispatcher was pointing at one of their colleagues, so another taxi driver, whose name was Leo Shui Chung, and as Wang looked out at him, he saw Leo was sprinting across this very busy parking lot full of all these cabs and drivers and customers, and Leo was clutching this big golden statue of Buddha in his arms as he ran. And so Wang and the dispatcher watched Leo, and what he did is he kept running all the way across the lot until he got to his taxi cab, at which point he practically dove inside of it. He slammed the door, locked every door, and then began looking around frantically like he was expecting someone to show up who had been like chasing him or something. But there was nobody around his car, and Wang and the dispatcher kind of scanned the parking lot, and they didn't see anybody who seemed remotely interested in Leo. And so Wang and the dispatcher continued to watch Leo from the window, and they saw eventually Leo stopped kind of scanning around for other people, and at that point he took that golden statue of Buddha and he placed it up on the dash of his cab. And this was not the first Buddha statue that he had put up there. From Wang and the dispatcher's perspective, it looked like he had at least 2 or 3 that were right up there alongside this new one. And then after Leo placed this new golden statue, he sort of sat back in his chair, and from Wang and the dispatcher's perspective, it sort of looked like he had closed his eyes and was praying or mumbling something, but whatever he was doing, it just seemed kind of odd. And so eventually Wang and the dispatcher stopped watching Leo, who still just continued to sit back in his chair and mumble or pray or something. And then Wang and the dispatcher looked at each other and they exchanged very concerned looks, because they both knew Leo was kind of a weird guy, but from his behavior today, it just seemed like something must be wrong with Leo. There has to be some issue. So for context, Leo was this 35-year-old guy who lived alone, and he had this reputation of being very antisocial and kind of just rude. Like, he had terrible manners. But recently, Wang and the dispatcher and other taxi drivers who worked at this company had noticed that Leo's behavior had gone from being kind of awkward and antisocial to being kind of menacing, like not even including the weird behavior he was exhibiting now, just like in his day-to-day interactions with people. He was just really aggressive. Like, he always would tell his colleagues at the taxi company how much he hated stray cats and dogs. And, a lot of people found these stray cats and dogs in their neighborhood in the city to be a bit of a nuisance. They'd rummage through trash and make noise or whatever, but nobody really paid them much attention. They were just stray animals trying to survive. Like, it wasn't a big deal. But for Leo, he obsessed over hating the stray cats and dogs and how much he wanted them to get out of his neighborhood. And somewhat recently, he had come to work and told his colleagues that he had gone out and gotten a crossbow, and at night he'd begun shooting at the stray cats and dogs, which totally horrified his colleagues. And now Leo had this weird thing going on with his Buddha statues that he was putting inside of his cab, and also in addition to those statues, he had begun putting on the windows inside of his cab these things called fulus, which are these little strips of yellow parchment paper that basically ward off evil spirits. And so Leo had basically transformed the interior of his cab into this sort of weird shrine or temple. And in fact, Leo had put up so many of these fulus on the inside of the windows, and again, all those statues that sat on the dash, that when he drove, he could barely see because his view was totally obstructed. But despite everybody at the company seeing this totally weird behavior playing out with Leo, nobody went up to him and said, hey, what are you doing with these statues and pieces of paper? What's going on here? Because nobody wanted to interact with him. He seemed like kind of a menace, and so people just kind of let him do his thing. But now, as Wang and the dispatcher are watching Leo run across the lot and act totally psychotic, they looked at each other and they were like, maybe we should do something. And so Wang volunteered to call the police, and as Wang turned to go walk out and make the call, he saw Leo peeling out of the parking lot, nearly smashing into cars and people, just driving like a total maniac. And so Leo really felt like, okay, yeah, this really is the time to step in. Someone's gonna get hurt here.
I'm a therapist who goes to therapy, and some people think that's strange. The thing is, though, therapists are human beings just like you. If you've been thinking
The following day, Wang would contact his friend in the police department, and he would explain what was going on with Leo, and to Wang's surprise, his friend told him that actually the police were well aware of Leo. And that was because, not all that long ago, Leo was actually a suspect in a murder case. So about 10 months earlier, in April of 1990, a 23-year-old woman from Japan named Mariko Iguchi had visited Taiwan on vacation, and during this vacation, she had gone missing. Now, at the time, the Taiwanese economy really relied heavily on Japanese tourism, and so Taiwan really aggressively marketed to Japan to, come visit, come on vacation here. And so it was pretty common for Japanese college students to visit Taiwan on vacation to celebrate things like a graduation or a birthday party. And so that's what Mariko was doing. She was here celebrating, and she was traveling alone. Also, one sort of quirky thing about Taiwanese culture at the time was it was pretty common for taxi cab drivers to open up their own personal homes to their fares, basically saying, hey, don't stay at a hotel, I'll give you a ride wherever you're gonna go, but then at night, you can stay at my house with my family. And so it was just kind of a thing in Taiwan that people visited and stayed at the homes of their taxi cab drivers. So when Mariko came to Taiwan on this vacation, this is what she did. She stayed in the home of the taxi cab driver, and it was during this period of time that she went missing. And so naturally, when the investigation began into her disappearance, the first place police went were the taxi cab drivers. And so first, the police focused on a driver in the capital of Taiwan who said he had given Mariko a few rides, he had brought her sightseeing, and then he had let her stay in his home. But he said, after that, she left and he didn't see her again. He had no idea what happened to her. And the police would actually discover that after Mariko left that particular driver's house, she would send a postcard to her family that was dated after she had left. And so basically this ruled out the first driver as a suspect. And so for a little while, this case went cold because the police couldn't find any other taxi cab drivers that had given Mariko a ride. But then, a few months later, the police offered a reward for information about what happened to Mariko, and it was then that police got a tip that Mariko had been seen speaking to Leo at the train station before she disappeared. But when police spoke to Leo, he immediately said, yes, I did give Mariko a ride, but that was it. She didn't stay at my house. It was just this one ride from the train station into town, and after she got out, I have no idea what happened to her. And so police would ask Leo dozens more questions, and they would try to get more information from him, but he just didn't have any. And then at the same time, there was this flood of all these new tips that began coming into the police station about this case. But it would turn out a lot of these leads, like all of them, were just terrible tips. People were calling in totally random stuff just because now there was this monetary reward for information, and it was kind of incentivizing people to just call in anything. And it was actually making the investigation much harder because now the police had all these bad tips, and so they really weren't getting anywhere. But despite the slow progress the police were making in this case had really been elevated and become like a huge international news story, and lots of people all over the world were following it. And during this time, when all these people are tuned in to this case, really weird things began happening surrounding this case. People in the city began receiving all these strange phone calls from this kind of frantic woman speaking Japanese. And in Taiwan, people predominantly speak Taiwanese and Mandarin, not Japanese. So this is a weird phone call to be getting in Taiwan. And also at this time, you need to remember that Mariko's disappearance was kind of all over the news. And so to get these weird calls from a woman speaking Japanese who sounds totally frantic, it made people in the city believe that it was Mariko placing these strange phone calls. But these calls, they didn't make any sense. It was just a woman kind of yelling in Japanese, and then she would just abruptly hang up. And also there were all these reports of people claiming to have seen Mariko or heard Mariko just in the city walking around. None of it was substantiated, but there was just kind of this eerie quality to the case. And so when Wang called his friend at the police department to report Leo for his totally weird behavior, This was at a time when the Mariko missing person case was still totally front of mind in Taiwan and around the world, and also the police were still actively investigating this case, and frankly, Leo had not been ruled out as a suspect in this case. He was not considered a primary suspect by any means, but he wasn't ruled out yet, and so the police are hearing that Leo's acting really funny, and it made them think, hey, maybe we should reinvestigate this guy and see if he really is connected to the Mariko missing person case. And so ultimately, after Wang hung up, his friend in the police department got in touch with the lead detective on the Mariko case and told him about what was going on with Leo. And this lead detective, whose name was Lin Xiaoji, decided he would just put Leo under surveillance to see what he was doing. Last year, my wife and I decided to do some home renovations. However, we didn't really have the cash to pay for it, so we knew we would need a loan. But when I began looking into getting a loan, it was obvious there were lots of opportunities to be taken advantage of by predatory traditional lenders. So I decided I would seek out the funds in another way, and that was to leap into the ocean and see if any of the various sea creatures out there would be willing to give me the money. And luckily, after being in the ocean only for a couple of minutes, I spotted a very suave-looking 13-foot-long mako shark in a leather jacket smoking a cigarette, who quickly flagged me down and said, yeah, I'll happily lend you the money, no problem. I was thrilled. That is, until I got home and checked my bank account, and I could see very clearly that that very cool shark was no good Samaritan. He was a predatory loan shark, and he was already drastically hiking my rates. And so I knew I would have to consolidate my debt ASAP if I ever wanted to extract myself from this evil shark's grasp. And that's when I found PDS Debt. PDS Debt provides options that consolidate your debts into one low monthly payment. They're also a top-rated company on Google, and they have an A+ rating on the Better Business Bureau. PDS Debt has customized options for anyone struggling with credit cards, personal loans, collections, or medical bills. It'll help you save thousands of dollars in interest and fees, and it'll help you pay off your debt in a fraction of the time. PDS Debt is offering a free debt assessment. It only takes 30 seconds. All you gotta do is head over to pdsdebt.com/Mr. Ballin to get your free debt analysis today. So, starting sometime in the middle of February of 1991, Detective Lin and a few of his colleagues began taking turns trailing Leo basically 24/7. And so the police just kept their distance and they followed Leo all around the city as he picked up his fares. And, the police never got out to talk to any of the fares, to get insights into whatever Leo might have been saying inside the cab. They just kind of watched from a distance and just wanted to see if there was any obvious red flags. Detective Lin figured, if Leo was somehow involved in whatever happened to Mariko, let's say she was killed, and let's say Leo was responsible for killing her, maybe if they followed Leo long enough, he might drive to an area that was kind of connected to her murder, maybe her gravesite or the place where he killed her or something. Going to kind of strange random locations without a fare would likely be an indication to police that that was a place of interest. But as the police tailed Leo, that's not what he did. Leo basically never ever left his cab. Leo basically just picked up a passenger, drove them where they needed to go, and then repeated over and over and over again all day long. And then at the end of the night, instead of going home to his apartment that police knew he had, he would just sleep inside of his cab, just like in parking lots and stuff. And the only times he would go into his apartment appeared to be just so he could go to the bathroom or maybe shower or something, because they would see him through the window. But whenever Leo went into his apartment, he went through the same totally weird ritual every time. He would be in his cab, parked out front of his apartment, and the police are, parked far enough away that they can watch this. And Leo, at some point, would begin kind of frantically looking all around him, as if he was looking for somebody who was trying to hurt him or who was spying on him or something. And then after kind of making sure the coast was clear, Leo would open up his door and sprint, like absolutely as fast as he could, into his apartment building, and he'd only be in there for like a couple of minutes before he'd come bombing back out and practically dive into his cab, and he would shut shut all the doors, lock all the doors, and then, he'd clutch his golden statues and he'd rub his fulus that were taped all over the inside of his cab, and he'd continue frantically looking around, to make sure nobody was there to hurt him or something. And then after a little while, he'd kind of calm down, he'd put his statue back on the dash, he'd kind of make sure his fulus were all in place, and then he would drive away. So, of course, Leiao's behavior, from the police's perspective, was totally bizarre, but in Detective Lin's mind, it didn't really seem like the behavior of a murderer. It seemed more like the behavior of someone who had lost their mind. Finally, on March 4th, 1991, Detective Lin decided that he just needed to speak to Leia, which required, basically ambushing Leia. So Detective Lin coordinated with his officers who were out surveilling Leia, and he had them tell him when Leia was at his apartment, going in to use the bathroom. And when they called in to Detective Lin that, hey, he just got to his apartment, he's about to run inside, Detective Lin and some other officers raced to the apartment, and they were all ready outside for whenever Leia came running back out to dive back into his cab. They were going to intercept him. And now Detective Lin and his colleagues didn't really know how Leia was going to react to having all these police standing there ready to grab him. I mean, was this guy going to be hostile? Was he going to be aggressive? Was he going to be scared, sad? They had no idea. It just seemed like Leia was totally unstable, so they all kind of had to be ready for whatever reaction he was going to have. However, the way Leia ultimately reacted to this was not the way any of the officers suspected. When Leia came bombing out of his apartment after a very short bathroom break, he began charging down the stairs towards his cab, and then seemed to kind of realize there were all these detectives and police officers all standing in front of him, literally getting ready to grab him, and Leia just collapsed to his knees and began sobbing and thanking them over and over and over again. Now, Detective Lin had no idea what this was. He didn't really understand what Leia was thanking them for, but he didn't waste any time trying to figure out what was going on. Instead, Detective Lin just went up to Leia and said, hey, we need to speak to you at the station. Will you come with us? And Leia was like, of course I will. Of course I will. And so Detective Lin drove Leia to the police station, and when they got there, Leia was saying things like, oh, I wish I could just stay at the police station with you all. Like, this is where I'm safe. I want to stay here. Now, Lin didn't really respond to this. He just kind of said, okay, yeah. And then they went inside together to head towards the interview room, and as they're walking there, Leia was saying over and over again to Detective Lin and any of the officers he passes by, thank you so much, you're my savior, thank you. Now, the police had no idea why Leia was treating them like his saviors, because to them, they're like, dude, we just ambushed you and brought you to the police station to question you about potentially being involved in a murder, so I don't know how we saved you. But it would turn out Leia had a really compelling reason to believe they really had just saved him, because it would turn out Leia had this absolutely terrifying thing happening inside of his apartment. Just several minutes earlier, when Leia had run into his apartment, so right before he charged back outside and police grabbed him and took him to the station, when he was still inside of his apartment, he stepped inside and the apartment was totally dark. All the lights are off, all the shades are drawn, and immediately Leia felt his heart starting to race. And he looked around his apartment and it was totally silent, but then he heard it. He could hear on the far side of his apartment, in a room that he couldn't quite see into, the sound of breathing. But Leia lives alone. There shouldn't be anybody here. He has no pets, there's nobody here, but he hears breathing in another room. But Leia knew there was nothing he could do. The only thing he could do was just try to get in there, go to the bathroom, and get out as quickly as possible. And so very slowly, Leia began kind of tiptoeing across the living room floor, kind of making sure to stay out of eyesight of the doorway that led into the room where the breathing was coming from. And as soon as he kind of got past an area where he could be seen from the doorway, he ran the rest of the way down the hallway. He cut into the bathroom and shut the door and locked it. And then as quickly as he could, he did his business. He used a washcloth to clean himself because he didn't have time to take a shower because of what was going on inside of his apartment. And then once he was all done, he took a deep breath and then he opened up the door. And this time, the apartment was absolutely silent. There was no more breathing. And so Leia, thinking he had this opportunity to get out of here without being caught by this thing inside of his apartment, he turned and just started running towards the door. And as soon as he did, he began to hear a voice, a hoarse female voice, screaming at him from the other side of his apartment, screeching, why? And as Leia was just about to get to the door, he turns and he sees Mariko, the missing woman, running with her hair all knotted and matted hanging over her face, sprinting towards him from that back room. And Leo, he only managed to barely get out of his apartment and shut it and lock it before she ran into the door. And then it went silent again. This is why Leo was acting totally crazy, because he was terrified of what he believed was like this demonic entity inside of his apartment. He didn't think that was a real person. He thought it was like the spirit of Mariko or something, and she was haunting him. And so he had no idea what to do. He didn't know who to tell, and he just began living out of his cab instead of dealing with whatever was going on in his apartment. And so when Leo charged outside after this latest encounter with Mariko, he sees the police, and Leo is just overwhelmed with relief. Hopefully, he's thinking they can get rid of her and his life can go back to normal. But as overjoyed as Leo appeared to be, and now having the police on his side, finally being able to deal with whatever was going on, when push came to shove, Leo actually did not feel comfortable immediately giving up details of whatever was going on with Mariko inside of his apartment. But as Leo was brought by Detective Lynn to the police station to tell them what was going on with how Mariko was in his apartment and she was haunting him, it seemed like it was the ghost of her or something. As Leo was having that conversation, other police officers were sent to Leo's apartment to go see if maybe Mariko really was in his apartment. Maybe that's where she had been this whole time. Maybe she broke into this guy's apartment and was just squatting there and harassing him, and that was the mystery. That's where she's been. But when police went into Leo's apartment, there was no sign whatsoever that anybody else besides Leo was living in that apartment. There was no sign of a break-in. There was nothing. It was just Leo's apartment. And so this made police really suspicious of Leo because his story was so outrageous, and also he's talking about a person who's actively missing, Mariko. And so the police really pressured Leo to, come forward, give us more information. Why did you say this is Mariko in your apartment? Because there's nobody in your apartment. Tell us what's going on here. And so finally, after 4 days of intense questioning of Leo did finally admit to police that there was more to this story.
At take 5, you stay in your car because we're faster than you think.
Oil change is done.
That was so fast I didn't even have time to finish knitting these sweaters. Oh well.
Cheese!
Take 5, the stay in your car 10-minute oil change.
Longwear just got comfortable. New Revlon Color Stay Limitless Matte. 24-hour matte color. 100% vegan ingredients with hyaluronic acid to hydrate and more color. Now matte is limitless. New Color Stay Limitless Matte. Revlon, live boldly.
It would turn out Leo really did pick Mariko up at the train station when she arrived in Taiwan for her vacation. So he did give her a ride, just like he said he had. But Leo had lied about what happened after that. It would turn out, after giving her this ride, Leo stayed with Mariko and they went sightseeing together, and then Leo invited Mariko to stay with him at his apartment, which again was customary in Taiwan. And so Mariko said yes, and she went to his apartment in the evening, and while they were there, Leo did proposition Mariko, and she rejected him. And at first, Leo just let it go, but then after Mariko fell asleep that night, he got his crossbow that he used to shoot dogs and cats, and he went into her room and he shot her 4 times with the crossbow and then cut her head off. Leo would bury her body the following night, but that same night was the first time Leo began hearing the breathing in his apartment. He couldn't quite place it. And then, not long after that, the head of Mariko, the severed head, would chase him all around his apartment, screaming, why, at him. And so basically, Mariko's severed head began haunting Leo incessantly to the point where he moved into his taxi cab and put up all those fulu papers to protect him from evil spirits, and also put up all those statues of Buddha for the same reason. He was living in his cab to protect himself from what he believed was this evil spirit. And so when people saw Leo in his cab kind of sitting back and muttering to himself, that was him praying that he would live through whatever was going on with this head. Leo would tell police where he buried Mariko's body, and he would tell police he buried her entire body in one location, including her head. But when police dug her up, it was only her lower half. Her head was missing. Liao was convicted of murder, and to this day, he is still in prison. Many people in Taiwan believe that, this case was ultimately solved because of Mariko's spirit, that she played a big role. Her head haunting Liao is what drove him crazy to the point where he admitted to police what he did. And then also, people in Taiwan think all those strange phone calls they were getting from that woman who was speaking Japanese and acting frantic and then hanging up, they say that was Mariko's spirit too, that was maybe one of her attempts just to keep people engaged with the story so that it wouldn't fade and become a cold case. In fact, even some of the police, including Detective Lin, say they do believe Mariko's spirit played a role. And in fact, Detective Lin said at one point when he was inside of Liao's apartment, he was by himself and he felt someone push him on the back. And when he turned around, there was nobody there. And so he was convinced that Mariko's spirit was inhabiting that apartment. Our newest podcast out of Ballin Studios is already a major hit. It's called Run Fool, and it's hosted by horror icon and master storyteller Rodney Barnes. And in every episode, Rodney weaves together these totally unsettling and terrifying stories about witches and demons and monsters and ghosts. And so far, the feedback we're getting on the show is that Rodney is so good at slowly ratcheting up the fear in the episode. And so when you get to the end of the show, you're like genuinely terrified. And if that wasn't enough to at least pique your interest in the show, well then you should tune into it just to hear the sound design. Rodney and his team, they built these super creepy soundscapes, and it's just unlike any other show I've listened to. So please go follow and start listening to Run Fool on any podcast platform. So that's going to do it. If you enjoyed today's story and you're looking for more strange, dark, and mysterious content, be sure to check out all of the Ballin Studios podcasts. We have the Mr. Ballin podcast, Mr. Ballin. Let them handle it. And as you're listening ad-free on Amazon Music. One morning in November of 2011, a wheelchair-bound woman and her full-time caregiver were at home when there was a knock on the front door. The caregiver got up and walked over to the door and opened it up, but there was no one there. And when she looked up and down the road, she didn't see anybody walking or driving away, which was kind of odd. But then she looked down and noticed there was what appeared to be a gift sitting on the front porch, but there was no tag on it. So the caregiver brought the gift inside and put it on the kitchen table and told the woman she was caring for that because this package was not labeled, for now they shouldn't open it. However, later that day, when the caregiver was not paying attention, the woman in the wheelchair was so curious about what this gift was that she grabbed the gift, went into the other room, and opened it up. And the second she did that, absolute chaos ensued. But before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right podcast because that's all we do, and we upload twice a week, once on Monday and once on Thursday. So if that's of interest to you, please offer to teach the Amazon Music follow button how to ride a bike, and the second they actually start to get it, go ahead and stick a huge branch into their front wheel as they drive by. Okay, let's get into today's story. On November 24th, 2011, 23-year-old Victoria Shakte sat in her wheelchair at the dining room table inside of her apartment in Innisfail, Alberta, Canada. On the kitchen table sat a fresh pizza, and then a balloon was tied to the back of one of the chairs. Victoria and her full-time caregiver, Marlene Punenbayan, were celebrating. Marlene, who was originally from the Philippines, had just received her permanent resident status in Canada. This meant that Marlene now was able to receive a range of social benefits provided by the country, and she could now take steps towards becoming an official Canadian citizen. So this was a huge deal for Marlene, and Victoria was just so happy for her. But despite being such good friends and having so much in common and just really getting along, the two women really could not have looked more different. Victoria had dyed red and blonde hair, she had a pierced nose, and she loved wearing really bright colors, in particular red. As for Marlene, she was much more modest. She had dark eyes and dark hair that she always kept perfectly combed, and then even when she wasn't working, she dressed very sensibly. But for anybody who knew these two, Victoria and Marlene seemed like sisters most of the time, and Victoria relied on Marlene more than anybody else in her life. When Victoria was just 16 years old, she had been in this terrible car accident. Her friend, who was driving, was speeding at over 140 miles per hour when they lost control and flipped the car. The accident had left Victoria a quadriplegic, which meant she suffered significant paralysis below her neck. Now, at the time, Victoria's friends and family were obviously so relieved that Victoria had survived the accident. But, looking at her paralysis, her friends and family were worried that Victoria's life would ever go back to being even close to what it used to be. But even at a young age, Victoria had always been very resilient and put her faith wholly in God. And so through the years of extensive medical treatments, she always stayed positive and strong. And over time, she had actually regained some movement in her arms and hands, and she had sort of built a new life for herself. Now, that life was very different from the one she had growing up, but she still cherished it. And Victoria's life had only gotten better when Marlene had become her caregiver and physiotherapist 3 years earlier. In addition to helping Victoria with her physical therapy, Marlene helped prepare food, she got Victoria ready for the day, and she kept the apartment clean. Marlene also helped look after Victoria's 7-year-old daughter, Destiny. Back at the kitchen table, Marlene and Victoria ate their pizza and talked about how exciting it was that Marlene was now one step closer to becoming a Canadian citizen. After they finished eating, Marlene got up and began to clean the kitchen, and Victoria wheeled herself down the hall to her daughter's room. Destiny's door was cracked open, and Victoria could see her daughter sleeping soundly. Victoria smiled. There were times when she looked at her daughter and just felt like bursting out into tears of joy because she believed her daughter really was a miracle. When Victoria had gotten into that car accident, she was 4 months pregnant. Victoria had been pinned in the wrecked car for 45 minutes before EMTs could get to her, and by the time she was taken to the hospital, she feared she had lost the baby. But 5 months later, her daughter had been born happy and healthy. Victoria chose the name Destiny because she felt like it had been her destiny to have this little girl. Then, years later, Victoria and her daughter had moved to the small town of Innisfail, which is said to get its name from an Irish word that meant Isle of Destiny. So, watching her daughter sleep soundly that night, Victoria felt like, everything that had happened in her life, including the accident that paralyzed her, had happened for a reason, and that she was meant to be exactly where she was right now with Destiny and with Marlene. Later in the evening, Victoria was starting to feel worn out, so she asked Marlene for some help. Victoria said she needed to make an important phone call. So Marlene pushed her down the hall to a small home office, and then she left. That way Victoria could have some privacy on her call. Then Victoria called her financial advisor, Brian Malley. Brian had been a friend of the family for years. He ran a successful construction business, and he had played a huge role in making Victoria's ground floor apartment more wheelchair accessible for her. Brian also owned a small financial firm in town where he worked with locals and people in the area, helping them invest, balance budgets, and manage their money. And managing money had been another major way that Brian had been helping Victoria. Years after her accident, Victoria had sued the person who had been driving the car that hit her, and she had been awarded a settlement of about 575,000 Canadian dollars. With so much money, Victoria had turned to Brian for some guidance, and he had worked to help her make some smart investments and to limit her spending. Brian answered the phone, and for a few minutes, he and Victoria just caught up on what was going on in their lives. Victoria told him the good news about Marlene becoming a permanent resident, and Brian told Victoria that he was excited because he was making the 2-hour drive to Edmonton for business, and so his wife could go to the opera. After a few minutes of this, Victoria finally brought up the reason that she had actually called. She needed Brian to move several $1,000s from her investment account into her checking account to cover her rent and bills and things like that. Victoria immediately heard Brian exhale sort of frustratedly. He told her he was getting concerned about her spending and that her investment account had really begun to dwindle significantly over the past year. Brian tried not to sound too harsh, but he told Victoria that he really couldn't understand why she wasn't sticking to the budget they had laid out for her. Victoria fell silent for a second, and then in a very quiet voice, she said to Brian that the reason she needed more money was to help her family. Brian said he totally understood how important taking care of family was to Victoria, but he said, you're one of 5 kids and you're giving too much money to your siblings. Now, even though Brian did not specifically say this, Victoria knew what Brian was really saying was there was one sibling in particular that Victoria was helping that Brian did not agree with, and that was one of her brothers. The young man had a very serious history of drug use, and Brian was very sure he was just throwing away the money Victoria was giving him to feed his drug addiction. But ultimately, Brian knew it was Victoria's decision what she did with her money, and so Brian said he would call his office and see what he could do about moving the money. But he urged Victoria to really think hard about whether it was worth giving away all this money. After Victoria hung up, she found herself thinking about her family. After she had gotten that court settlement, her first instinct was to use that money to better the lives of everybody in her family, and she had done that, and she was really happy about it. And so even though she knew Brian was making a good point that maybe it was not the best decision to give all her money away to her siblings, she just felt like she had to. And in fact, she couldn't even imagine not helping her siblings or her family out at this point. In particular, her brother who was struggling with drugs. In fact, Victoria believed her kind of red flag brother deserved the most help out of anybody because of his drug use. A couple of minutes later, Victoria called out to Marlene and asked her to come into the study. When she did, Marlene took Victoria and wheeled her to Victoria's bedroom. There, Marlene massaged Victoria's legs like she did every night, and then she helped her get ready for bed. They talked through their plan for the following day. Destiny had to be at school early, and then Victoria wanted to go see her stepfather. Then after that, they said goodnight to each other, and then Marlene stepped out of the room. For a little while, Victoria just lay awake in bed, feeling more stressed out than usual. And the reason she was stressed was about her money. She was thinking about what Brian said and whether or not it was a good idea to be giving all her money to her siblings and her family. And Victoria, she hated thinking about money. It really stressed her out to begin with. But she also told herself that she was going to see her stepfather the following day, and he always had great advice for her. And so maybe he would have some great financial advice. And so with that in mind, and also Victoria's steadfast belief that, no matter her problems, God had a plan for her, Victoria was able to eventually drift off to sleep. The next morning, so November 25th, 2011, Victoria and Marlene woke up early and made Destiny breakfast and got her off to school. Then, back at the apartment, Marlene helped Victoria get ready to go see her stepfather. But right as they were about to leave, there was a knock at the front door. Marlene walked across the living room and opened the door, but there was nobody there. She looked out into the street, but didn't see anybody walking off. Then Marlene looked down at the porch, and she saw there was this large, shiny green and gold gift bag that had no tag on it, and so Marlene just picked it up and stared for a second, wondering who had sent it and who it was for. Marlene walked back inside carrying the gift, and she told Victoria that she didn't think it was a good idea to open it right now because they had no idea where it came from. But Victoria thought Marlene was acting paranoid. To Victoria, this gift was clearly just an early Christmas present. Marlene disagreed and even suggested they should call the police. Victoria rolled her eyes and said that was a huge overreaction, but she could tell Marlene felt really uncomfortable about this gift, so Victoria promised she would not open it up. Marlene put the gift in the kitchen, and then she and Victoria left and went to go see Victoria's stepfather, who lived only a few minutes away. When they got there, Victoria's stepfather greeted the two women with a huge smile on his face, and he welcomed them into his home. A few minutes after they got there, Marlene helped Victoria to the shower. Victoria's stepfather's shower was actually much more accessible than her own, and so Victoria really enjoyed using it anytime she visited. But the shower also gave her an excuse to catch up with her stepfather. The two had been very close since he came into Victoria's life when she was a young girl, and she often turned to him for advice. So, after her shower, Victoria told her stepfather about the money issues she was having that she spoke to her financial advisor, Brian, about the day before. And just like Brian, Victoria's stepfather was also pretty visibly concerned about the fact that Victoria's money was dwindling so quickly. He told her that it was noble that she liked to help everybody she loved, but she needed to remember that that money was hers, and taking care of herself and her daughter should really be her priority, not everybody else. They talked a while longer, and then eventually Victoria asked him if he knew anything about the early Christmas present that had just shown up on her doorstep. At this point, Marlene jumped into the conversation and told Victoria's stepfather that there hadn't been a card or a tag or anything on this present, and she hadn't seen who had left it at the door. And then Marlene said, I told Victoria that we should not only not open this gift, but we should also call the police and let them handle it. And as Victoria's stepfather listened to this, he too started feeling pretty paranoid about this gift. And he told Victoria that, yeah, you should call the police and definitely do not open that bag. You don't know what it is. Victoria couldn't believe what she was hearing. Why was everybody so worried about this early Christmas present? Come on. But at the same time, Victoria did not want to upset people, so she told her stepfather that she would not open the gift. A little bit later, Victoria thanked her stepfather for having them over. She told him she loved him, and then she and Marlene headed home. They got back to the apartment just before 9 a.m. Marlene walked right to the kitchen and began washing dishes from breakfast. She grabbed a plate off the counter and began running water over it, when suddenly there was this huge bang that echoed through the apartment, and the entire apartment shook, and parts of the ceiling began coming down. And Marlene, she began screaming because she had no idea what was going on. She figured this must be an earthquake, but she didn't know. And so after a second of just pure terror and shock, Marlene turned and ran out of the kitchen and went into the living room yelling out for Victoria, because again, she has no idea what's going on here. But when Marlene saw Victoria, she was slumped forward in her wheelchair and blood was pouring out of her neck. And so Marlene just ran through all the dust and the smoke in the room and went out the front door and just started screaming for help at the top of her lungs. A neighbor who lived not far from Victoria's small apartment building had come out of his house after hearing that very loud noise. And now he looked up the street and he saw Marlene screaming for help. And so the neighbor immediately grabbed his phone, dialed 911, and ran to Marlene. And when he reached Marlene, he could see very clearly that she had cuts on her body and she was bleeding. But Marlene kept saying, "Somebody needs to go inside. Victoria needs help." And the neighbor happened to be a former volunteer firefighter, so he ran into the apartment without hesitation. Once he was inside, there was all this dust and smoke in the air, and it really made it hard to breathe, and he began to cough. But eventually, after walking through the haze, he saw Victoria in her wheelchair, and so he rushed over to her, and he saw she wasn't moving, and so he reached down to check for a pulse or any sign of life. But after a few seconds of just looking at Victoria, it was clear she was already deceased. And so the neighbor ran back out of the house and sat down next to Marlene, who was collapsed on the ground crying, and just took her hand and tried to comfort her as best as he could as they waited for the emergency personnel to arrive. Seconds later, fire trucks, police cruisers, and an ambulance roared through the small town of Innisfail, and they arrived in front of Victoria's apartment just minutes after the neighbor had made that 911 call. First responders helped Marlene and the neighbor off the lawn and then tended to Marlene's cuts. There was no active fire going on inside the apartment, but still, firefighters were the first to go inside. And when they got in there, they quickly identified that clearly an explosion had happened inside of this apartment. And from what they were seeing, the explosion had not been accidental. Someone had set off an incendiary device. And so the firefighters went back outside, and they would contact local, regional, and national authorities about what they had just found inside of the apartment. Not long after those calls, members of the explosives disposal unit arrived. Members of the EDU are national and regional Canadian police officers trained to detect, disarm, and dispose of explosive devices like bombs. Several EDU officers pulled out of a truck in front of Victoria's apartment. They wore these huge 90-pound bomb suits made from protective materials like Kevlar, and they had helmets and blast shields that covered their heads and faces. Several of Marlene's neighbors had come out onto their porches to watch, and from their perspective, it almost looked like a group of astronauts had invaded their street. Inside of Victoria's apartment, the explosives unit did a thorough sweep of every room to make sure there was no longer a bomb threat, and they concluded that the apartment was clear, and so it was time now for investigators and forensic analysts to take over. Corporal Kenmore Deep DeHill of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which is Canada's national police force, arrived at Victoria's apartment with several forensic investigators right behind him. DeHill quickly met with the officers who had gotten to the scene first, and they filled him in with information they had taken from Marlene. They told him the woman who had died inside the apartment was Victoria Shakte. She was 23 years old, and she was a quadriplegic. The officers also said that Marlene had told them about some sort of mysterious gift that had been dropped off outside of the apartment earlier that morning without any kind of card or tag on it. DeHill nodded and then scanned the street. The neighbors had now gotten even closer to the scene, trying to figure out what had happened. The officers pushed them back and told them they needed to stay a safe distance away from Victoria's apartment. Amidst this growing crowd, DeHill saw Marlene. She was sitting with first responders with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. He could tell she was in shock. DeHill wanted to talk to her, but first he wanted to get a better idea of what he was dealing with. So he thanked the officers he was talking with for their help, and then DeHill stepped inside the apartment. Forensics analysts told him that they had already found pieces of a galvanized steel pipe, traces of gunpowder, and a lantern battery, clear signs of a homemade bomb. DeHill tried to take in the entire scene. Parts of the walls and floors had been ripped apart, pieces of furniture had gaping holes in them, debris were scattered everywhere, and strands of plaster hung down from the ceiling like confetti. But the real horror was where Victoria was, in the dining room. DeHill walked into the dining room and approached Victoria. She was sitting in her wheelchair with her head slumped forward. DeHill saw multiple serious wounds on Victoria's neck, as well as bloodstains on her skin and all over her torn clothes. DeHill didn't want to jump to any conclusions, but he had been a member of the Major Crimes Unit for years, and he knew that homicides involving pipe bombs like this were often connected to drug gangs. But that just didn't make sense to DeHill. The victim was a young woman who was paralyzed and who had no criminal history at all. Why would she be mixed up with a drug gang? Corporal DeHill made his way down the hall to the bedrooms. He looked into Destiny's bedroom, and all he could think was how glad he was that Victoria's little girl had been at school when this happened. Minutes later, someone shouted for DeHill out in the dining room. So DeHill stopped what he was doing, and he walked down the hall to the dining room, and when he got there, DeHill saw a forensics officer crouched down, staring at something on the ground. She was staring at something that she just uncovered from the dust and the pieces of the ceiling that had fallen to the floor, and she could not believe what she was looking at. DeHill knelt down beside her, and he looked at what she was staring at, and what he saw was a piece of paper with Victoria's name written on it in colored ink. Marlene had previously told the officers that this Christmas present they received did not have a tag on it, but this piece of paper definitely looked like a tag that would go on a gift, at least to DeHill. The forensics officer told DeHill that finding a scrap of paper like this fully intact after an explosion was almost unheard of. And that little piece of paper gave DeHill a jolt of energy, because it could possibly offer a handwriting sample of the bomber. And even more importantly, potentially there could be the bomber's DNA on the paper. So the forensics team bagged up the piece of paper for testing and then continued looking for evidence all throughout the apartment. Later that day, DeHill finally stepped outside of the apartment, and the fresh air felt like it might knock him over. He hadn't realized how difficult it was to breathe inside of the apartment. DeHill caught his breath and then noticed Marlene standing by the road with several officers. The wounds that Marlene had suffered during the explosion wound up being quite minor, so she was able to answer any questions that the officers had. And so DeHill saw this as his chance, and so he walked over to her and introduced himself. Marlene wiped away the tears from her face, and then she told DeHill that she had warned Victoria not to open that gift. And so when DeHill heard this, he followed up with, "Well, Marlene, why were you so worried about this gift? Did you think somebody was planning to attack Victoria?" But Marlene would say, in response to this, that her suspicion about the present had nothing to do with fear that somebody was out to hurt Victoria. She just didn't trust the fact that this present had been dropped off completely randomly a month before the holidays with no tags on it, nothing. It just seemed like something was off about this gift. And then after that, Marlene just sort of broke down. She told DeHill that people loved Victoria and looked to her as an inspiration. Victoria had endured so much for someone so young, but she never let anything stop her. In fact, Victoria often went out of her way to help other people who needed it, whether it was by giving money to her family or volunteering at her church. She was just a very thoughtful person. DeHill told Marlene how sorry he was for her loss and for what she had been through that morning with the explosion. DeHill knew Marlene was physically okay, but he was sure she would never get over what had happened. Then he thanked her for her time and walked back towards the apartment. And as he was on his way, one thing Marlene had said to DeHill really stood out to him, that Victoria apparently gave money to her family. Money, family, and murder often went hand in hand, so DeHill instructed members of his team to begin looking into Victoria's financial situation, and he asked others to track down members of her family for questioning. DeHill still had not formed any serious theories or opinions about who could have delivered this pipe bomb, but he thought maybe in this case, a family dispute over money that maybe erupted into violence might make more sense than a drug gang putting out a hit on somebody like Victoria. So DeHill just needed to figure out who all Victoria was giving money to and who would have benefited from her death. On the night of Victoria's murder, and during the following day, Corporal DeHill and members of his team had contacted and took statements from Victoria's family and friends, and they all basically said the same thing. They loved Victoria. She was a beautiful person and an amazing mother, and they couldn't imagine who would want to hurt her. And Victoria's family were very upfront about the financial aid she had given them all since she'd received her court settlement. But they all insisted that they never wanted to feel like a burden to Victoria and that she helped them because it was something she wanted to do. Now, despite how honest the family and friends seemed to DeHill, he couldn't actually just rule them out because they seemed like good people. The reality was they still needed more information to get to the bottom of Victoria's financial situation to see if that played a role in whatever happened to her. And in conversations with family and friends, DeHill had learned that Victoria had a financial advisor, Brian Malley, who would obviously have a much fuller picture of Victoria's finances. And so DeHill reached out to Brian and asked him to come meet him at a nearby police station. Brian was a 55-year-old guy who was quite tall and had graying hair. He was known for being very polite and outgoing, traits that had really helped him grow his business. Brian told DeHill that he'd actually been a friend of Victoria's family for years, and he had really gotten to know Victoria when he did construction work on her apartment to make it more wheelchair accessible. He also said when he and Victoria began working together on her finances, that also really brought them together, so they were legitimately good friends. DeHill asked him about his investment strategy for Victoria, and Brian would say, the strategy was very standard. His goal was just to add to the money that Victoria already had. That way her and her daughter could be taken care of in the future. And then he also asked Brian if he could think of anyone who might have wanted to hurt Victoria. And when he asked that question, it was the first time Brian seemed to hesitate. And for a second, DeHill actually thought maybe Brian just didn't hear the question, and he was about to ask it again, but then Brian shook his head and broke the silence and said he just could not imagine anybody wanting to do this to Victoria. It just really didn't make sense. DeHill would ask Brian a few more questions, and Brian would do his best to answer, and then eventually DeHill thanked Brian for coming in, and Brian got up to leave. But even before Brian made it out the door, DeHill found himself thinking how strange it was that Brian had hesitated when he was asked, is there anybody out there that you think might want to hurt Victoria? Everybody else who DeHill had asked that question to, family, friends, witnesses, had all pretty much immediately said, no, there's no one. Nobody would want to hurt her. Or certainly I don't know anybody who would want to hurt her. And Brian had basically had the same answer, but again, he had hesitated. And so it could have just been, a brain fart or he zoned out or something, or maybe there was something more to the hesitation. And so DeHill decided he was going to get to the bottom of it. And DeHill did not need to wait long to get his answer, because the following day, Brian contacted DeHill, and what he said cast Victoria's murder in a whole new light. Brian told DeHill that one of Victoria's brothers, who she gave money to all the time, had a very serious drug problem. He'd been addicted to crack for years. But that wasn't all. Brian also thought there was a real chance that Victoria's brother was a drug dealer and that he had gotten on the wrong side of some pretty serious drug gangs. And so by the time DeHill hung up with Brian, he felt like he had just caught his first major break in this case. One of DeHill's initial thoughts about the crime scene was that the type of homemade bomb used to kill Victoria was often used by people in the drug trade. So DeHill wondered if it was possible that Victoria's brother owed money to drug dealers or had encroached on their territory when dealing drugs on his own or something. And if that was the case, maybe those drug dealers killed Victoria to send a message to her brother. And so soon after this call with Brian, DeHill raced off to go speak with Victoria's brother. And when he did and actually began talking to him, the young man tried to be as helpful as he could, and he admitted openly to struggling with drugs in the past. But he said he never dealt drugs to anyone, and the idea that he had connections to major drug gangs was laughable. DeHill was not ready to just take this guy at his word, but one thing DeHill definitely noticed was Victoria's brother was visibly angry that somebody even suggested that he had something to do with his sister's death. He told DeHill he loved Victoria, probably more than he'd loved anybody else in the world. And so after this meeting ended, DeHill did not think he had just gotten any closer to solving the case. However, at the same time, he wasn't ready to just drop the possible connection between drugs and Victoria's murder. And so for now, at least, that was still the best lead he had. On December 3rd, 2011, so a week after Victoria's murder, 250 people gathered at a funeral home to say their final goodbyes to Victoria and to celebrate her life. DeHill and other police officers attended the funeral as well. It's common for investigators to go to funerals of murder victims to see how their friends and family and other potential suspects behave. DeHill listened to the people who were closest to Victoria talk about what an unbelievably amazing
Hey, man, how am I driving, man?
I think we're parked, man.
Back in the AO.
Back in the AO, man. Whoa. This is a lot to handle right now, man. Snoop, my man. Hey, we could use you on our side.
For sure. Let's get on it.
Man, well, this should level the playing field. Now, who's up on smoke, cabrón?
End of day.
Never mess with a Chicano. Snoop Dogg's the man.
Appreciate you.
Hey, that was far out, man.
Think I hit a bad batch, man.
Pendejo, that's a smoke grenade.
What the fuck? You ain't changed the screen over yet. Still looking. No, it's not lit.
area.
What's your rock?
Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Hardpoint relocated. Secure the target area.
I was legally blind.
Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Move to the enemy.
Did my teammate did.
Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Friendly mosquito active. Confirm the next hardpoint. Enemies inside the perimeter.
Holding. On the move.
area updated. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Copy that. Hostile unit in the area. Hostile mosquito is online.
Yep.
We have taken the lead. Compromised. Secure the area.
Whatever.
Enemies inside the perimeter. Confirming next hard point. Stand by. Hostiles deploy the mosquito. On your target area updated. Move to the hard point. Hostile SAE near your position.
Semtex out!
Friendly UAV update. Target area updated. Move to the hard point. Hard point compromised. Secure the area.
He was already.
Hostile UAV in the area. Hostile airstrike near your location. Hardpoint relocated. Stand by. Hardpoint relocated. Secure the target area.
What?
Enemy UAV active.
I've done that twice.
Determine next hardpoint. Stand by.
You're on the other side of my nuts over too, bro.
Target area updated. Move to the hardpoint. Relocating. Stand by. Enemies inside the perimeter. The enemy's taking the lead. Hardpoint relocated. Secure the target area. Secure the
On your six!
We've lost the lead.
Fucking man. Fucking pussy.
Hardpoint compromised.
Thanks, comrade!
hardpoint. Hostile overwatch in the area. Enemies inside the perimeter. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. UAV online. Ready to deploy. Friendly UAV on station. Copy that. UAV is on station. Enemies inside the perimeter. Hardpoint relocating. Stand by. Friendly UAV online. UAV fuel. RCB at this time. Hardpoint relocated. Secure the target area. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. We're getting hit hard. Enemy UAV active. Confirming next hardpoint. Stand by. Target area updated. Enemies inside the perimeter. Relocated. Stand by. Hardpoint relocated. Secure the target area. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Inside the perimeter. Compromised. Secure the area. Confirming next hardpoint. Stand by. Enemies inside the perimeter. Target area updated. To the hardpoint. Secure the area.
For the enemy.
Mission failed. Return to base. Hardcore. Kill confirmed. Further attack. Taking the lead. Confirm that. We have taken the lead.
in your section.
Hostile UAV in the area. Enemy UAV active. Hostiles deploying the remote turret. Hostile UAV in the area.
Who's taking a shit in the bathroom, bro?
Hostile SAE incoming. I have the UAV on station. Kill confirmed.
That's me.
4 team deathmatch. Eliminate. Leave none alive.
Crazy minded. What's good with your buddy?
We've lost the lead. The enemy's taking the lead. Ready to deploy. Friendly UAV online. We've lost the lead.
After. Sure.
Hostile Mosquito is online.
Flash incoming.
Hostile UAV in the area.
The buggy story behind you.
UAV active. Friendly UAV. Hostile UAV in the area. Enemy Overwatch Kilo inbound.
Oh, my bad, black guy.
Ship hard. Enemy UAV active.
Hey. When you're talking shit, multiplayer. Hey, are you getting paid every week to play by Call of Duty? No, you're not. You're trash. Shut the fuck up, kid. God damn. What if they're an Asian Jamaican?
Hardcore. Domination. Capture and keep hold of the objective. We're taking Charlie. We're taking Alpha. Securing objective Charlie. Hostile UAV. Enemy securing Bravo. We've lost Bravo. Charlie secure. We're taking Bravo. We're losing Alpha. Enemy's taking Alpha. Securing objective Bravo. We're losing Alpha. Enemy UAV active. We're taking Bravo.
Hostile spot!
Securing objective Alpha. Securing objective Bravo. Hostile FAE near your position. Enemies taking Alpha. We're losing Charlie. We're losing Alpha.
My bad, bro.
Enemy securing Charlie. Friendly UAV online. Enemy taking Alpha.
Gotcha, six!
Taking Bravo. Losing Charlie. Hostile UAV in the area. Securing objective Bravo. Securing Charlie. Enemy UAV active. Subathon detected. Losing Charlie. Hostile UAV in the area. The enemy has captured two objectives. Objective secure. Enemy securing Charlie. Enemy UAV active.
Throwing
Friendly
thermite!
UAV on station. We're taking Alpha. We're losing Charlie. Friendly UAV online. Securing objective Alpha.
You done fucked up on that one. target. Changing man.
Securing objective Charlie. Objective Bravo is compromised. Get it back. You're losing it. Mission failed. Return to base. Hardpoint. Secure the target area. Hardpoint moving. Down. Secure the target area. Enemies inside the perimeter. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area.
Get in the tree. I'll let you play a little bit, okay? Go ahead.
Confirming next hardpoint.
Okay.
Stand by. Enemies inside the perimeter.
You're okay, kid.
Target area updated. Move to the... We're falling behind. Get moving. Standing by. Enemy active. 5 point relocating. Stand by.
Copy. UAV orbiting the AO. Recon is offline. UAV down. Recon is offline.
Friendly Overwatch Helo inbound. 5 point relocated. Secure the target area. Friendly UAV online. Friendly UAV on... Friendly remote turret deployed. Point compromised. Secure the anti-remote turret. Friendly cluster mine deployed. Friendly UAV on station. The mission is complete. Good work.
Hardcore. Kill confirmed. Eliminate hostiles and secure their tag. We have taken the lead. Tag secure. Kill confirmed.
Got your back. Throwing.
No diddy.
Hostile UAV in the area. We've got him on the run. Keep up the chase.
Oh, fuck.
UAV standing by.
Approaching from the rear.
It's like, what's this dude's name on the white shit? Bitch.
Friendly UAV online. Enemy Overwatch below inbound.
I need 2 more long shots. Where are they coming from? Giggity. I thought that was Arby's.
Hostile UAV in the area. Not one.
One's just chilling on top of the 18 room.
UAV offline.
There's comic books in there, Swan.
Enemy
You said
UAV
it, bud.
active.
Throwing flash grenade.
I didn't know where we were. left the door open.
Friendly UAV on station.
He said, POT, hold it down.
Casi me lleva el diablo. Enemy in the area. Switching mags.
Yeah, behind y'all. Those.
From the rear.
Hostile deployed a remote turret. Friendly remote turret deployed.
Oh, I got this. Fucker.
Friendly remote turret active. Hostile UAV. Friendly UAV on station.
Thank you for the follow and the girl. Set backwards. Hey, fast as fuck, boy.
Mission time is half over. Maintain the lead.
Oh,
Friendly
need one
UAV
more long
online.
shot.
Friendly remote turret deployed.
Throwing flash grenade.
Friendly UAV on station. UAV active. Friendly UAV online.
Ain't. Now I got the last battery.
Confirmed.
Howdy.
Friendly UAV on station.
Bro, get up with the fucking. Oh, he's laying down.
Flash grenade.
That's one grenade. That's not a sound effect, that's me doing it.
The mission is complete. Good work.
That's why I got 3 kids with 1 on the way.
down for another UAV up. Oh, that bitch outside. Whatever it's where they go. Get him, boom! Nato gone.
Oh yeah, he had much. That's my fault.
So I told Mom when we broke up, that's anything I was pissed about. All that fucking ass shit for nothing.
That's pretty funny.
Today, Carmen's page. Today, broke the page. So,
oh, don't learn.
I'm sitting there just to drive by, yeah.
You gonna pass it? Got to.
Hardcore. Kill confirmed. Kill them and secure their tanks. We've secured the lead. Friendly UAV online.
Or just make it's free to make an account so you don't have to spend it.
Confirmed.
Yeah, I get it.
March 1. Friendly UAV on station. They're falling apart. Break them.
So could use it.
Hostile remote target detected. Friendly UAV online. Friendly UAV on station.
Stuck my ass. Motherfucker. Oh, he turned me into a joint. He turned me into a joint. He turned me into a joint. Playing on his vagina, bro. Playing on his vagina. Oh, that is a nice spot. What's up on top of the thing? Yeah, that's where they sit. Well, I can't even get out of spawn right now.
Eliminate. You may leave.
Kill confirmed. Friendly UAV on station. UAV active.
Bitch.
Friendly UAV on station. Mark one.
This land for me.
Tag secure. Kill confirmed.
Score streak should be disabled with hardcore.
Friendly UAV online. Kill confirmed. Friendly UAV on station. Confirmed. accomplished.
Bing bong. Bing bong. Fuck her right in the pussy. I need 3 more double kills. Yep. That's where I started before. 2K, my favorite. Somebody's trying to impress a girl on the street. They just revved their sounded like someone revving their engine. Sounded like someone trying to impress their girl revving their engine. Nova, you scared the shit out of me. Go lay down. Damn dog.
Hardcore. Hard point. Secure the target area. Target area located. Secure the hard point.
I don't think I can get shots on this map.
Friendly UAV online. Secured the lead. Enemy in the area. Friendly UAV on station.
At my location.
Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Confirming next contact. Stand by. Target area updated. Move to the hardpoint. Enemies inside the perimeter.
Threat safe.
Our counter UAV is active.
Said POP. Hold me down. He
Friendly
said, see
UAV
what
online.
happened was. He said the way my
Hardpoint
fingers are set
compromised.
up is I
Secure the
forgot to pull the trigger.
Hardpoint relocating. Stand by. Friendly UAV on station. Hardpoint relocated. Secure the target area. Hostile UAV in the area. Enemy UAV active. online. Confirming next hard point. Stand by.
Where are you?
Target area updated. Move to the hard point. Friendly UAV on station.
Wow. Why they all spawn right there?
Target sighted.
Friendly UAV online. Hardpoint relocating. Stand by. Friendly counter UAV is online. Hardpoint relocated. Secure the target area.
Soldier fire.
Our advanced UAV is online. Friendly UAV on station.
Cover your six.
Confirming next hard point. Stand by. Target area updated. Move to the hard point. Friendly UAV online. Friendly UAV on station. Our counter UAV is active. Friendly UAV online. Hardpoint relocating.
Covering your six.
Hardpoint relocated. Secure the target area. Hostiles launched a cruise missile. Mission time is half complete. Secure the victory.
Playing hardcore. I was gonna get killed.
Enemy in the area.
Enemies inside the perimeter. Confirming next hard point.
You're like, I saw you looking at me, looking at you, looking at me.
Target area updated. Move to the hard point. UAV in the area. Hardpoint compromised. The area friendly UAV on station. Ready to deploy. Hostile remote turret is active. Friendly Mosquito deployed. Friendly UAV online. Hardpoint relocating. Stand by. Hardpoint relocating. Secure the target area. UAV on station. Confirming next hardpoint. Stand by. Friendly.
Got your back.
Our counter UAV is active. Friendly UAV on station. Target area updated. Move to the hardpoint. Enemies inside the perimeter. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Friendly Mosquito active. Enemies inside the perimeter. Hardpoint relocated. Stand by. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Friendly UAV online. 30 seconds remain. Hostile cluster mine active. Friendly counter UAV is online. Friendly UAV on station. Inside the perimeter. Friendly remote turret active.
Target area marked. You're cleared hot.
Friendly cruise missile deployed. 10 seconds remaining. Next target. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Friendly missile deployed. We've secured the field. Mission accomplished. Alpha. Securing objective Charlie. Friendly UAV on station. Enemy securing Bravo. We're taking Charlie. We are losing Alpha. Enemy taking Bravo. Objective Alpha is compromised. Friendly mosquito active. Hostile SAE near your position. Take control Alpha. Enemy securing Bravo. Enemy taking Alpha. Securing objective Charlie. Enemy taking Bravo. Hostile overwatch below the area. We're taking Charlie. We're losing Alpha. Friendly UAV on station. We lost Alpha. Hostile secured a remote turret. Hostile. Enemy securing Charlie. Enemy securing Bravo. Objective Bravo is compromised. Losing Charlie. We're taking Bravo. Mosquito is online. Securing objective Bravo. Bravo secure. Enemy securing Charlie. Enemy taking Bravo. Hostile SAE incoming. Securing objective Alpha. Losing Charlie. Enemy securing Bravo. They're taking Alpha. Enemy taking Bravo. Alpha secure.
What's your mark?
Enemy securing Bravo. Friendly overwatch helo inbound. Friendly precision airstrike inbound. We've lost Bravo. Securing objective Charlie. Bravo. Enemy taking Alpha. Securing objective Bravo. We are losing Alpha. We're taking Bravo. Friendly UAV online. Friendly UAV on station. We're taking Charlie. Securing objective Charlie.
Diddy. Diddy all the way. Nah, for real though, fuck you. Diddy is a... Little boy.
Multiple threats!
Hardpoint located. Lock it down. We've taken the lead. Hardcore. Hardpoint. Enemies inside the perimeter.
Taking fire!
Friendly UAV online. Hostile Overwatch helo in the area. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Hardpoint relocated. Stand by. Enemies inside the perimeter. Hardpoint relocated. Secure the target area. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area.
Oh, God.
Friendly UAV on station.
You can put them away. Also, can I bother you after that?
Target area updated. Move to the hard point.
I'll do it right after this.
Enemies inside the perimeter.
Oh, I just scared the shit out of me.
Friendly mosquito active.
Can't hear shit with these headphones on.
Friendly UAV on.
She just got home from work. I heard the door shut, but I didn't know she was coming up behind
Hardpoint relocated. Bye.
He said, wait a minute.
UAV in the area. Deploy a remote turret. Hardpoint relocated. Target enemies inside the perimeter. Mission time is half over. Maintain the lead. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Confirming next hardpoint. Stand by. Inside the perimeter. Friendly UAV on station. Target area updated. Move to the hardpoint. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area.
Oh.
Enemies inside the perimeter. We've lost the lead. Hardpoint relocated. Stand by. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Hardpoint relocated. Secure the target area. Hostile VTOL overhead. Enemies inside the perimeter. The Overwatch Helo inbound. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Hostile care package. Hostile cluster mine detected. UAV active. Hostile care package deployed. Mosquito is online. Enemies inside the perimeter. Hostiles deployed a mosquito. Confirming next hardpoint. Secure the area.
146 gigs. Has dropped almost 200 and it's still about to lose the game.
Hostiles launched a cruise missile. Secure the area. Hostiles deployed a mosquito. We've lost the lead. Enemies inside the perimeter. Hardpoint covered. Secure the area. Confirming next hardpoint. Stand by. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. Hardpoint relocated. Secure the target area. Inside the perimeter. Mosquito is online. Hardpoint relocating. Stand by. Hardpoint compromised. Secure the area. The mission is complete. Good work.
Alrighty, fellas, I will hit y'all up tomorrow. Yes, sir. Alrighty, stream. That is going to be it for me. I am going to hop off here, get a little bit of, and I will be back live tomorrow. I'll have a wonderful night. I will see y'all tomorrow.